Oi, meu povo, or should I say hi, my people. Today we have here our first English podcast episode, and we are about to talk with the CMO of one of the biggest companies in our area. Probably it's part of the daily routines of most of us. So let me put our guest on the screen.
Hey, Julia. Hey.
Hey, Andrew. Thank you so much for being here and join us. It's a pleasure to talk to you. And like to start, before we start talking about marketing and SEO and Semrush, I would like to ask you, who is Andrew? Like, can you give people an introduction, like
Sure.
a little bit of your background or things
Yeah,
like that?
absolutely. Well, first of all, let me say thank you very much for having me on your first English speaking, podcast. So I feel very honored to be a first guest. First of any is always like super cool feeling. So thank you very much, and thanks for everyone listening as well. So my name is Andrew. As Julie said, I'm CMO at Semrush. But who am I? Who am I on this scene, arriving into to the fierce world of SEO and digital marketing? My background has always been in marketing, really since I was 19, I think. Even during university, I was working in communications. My background is very much in high tech, market research, digital consultancy, and really in performance marketing, brand marketing, large scale advertising as well, and storytelling. And so I know that that's a little bit of the professional background. For those who don't know, I live in Austin, but I've lived in London for about 8 years. I'm married to someone who's from Warsaw, so I'm in Europe quite a lot, quite regularly. I consider myself a global person, and I'm lucky to be able to be mobile and traveling around and seeing people all over the world. It impacts me every day, and I don't take it for granted.
Excellent. Okay, so let's start. I will start with a tricky question. Semrush or Uber Suggest? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, okay, yeah. No.
I'm just kidding. So, what do you do as a CMO?
That's a big question. How much time do we have again? Do we have 3 hours?
Yes, we can take the whole day here.
Sure. Yeah, the whole day. Yeah. So look, it's it's a lot of things all at once, as you can imagine. Look, I'll be honest. Earlier in my career, I wasn't sure about if I ever really wanted to become a CMO. To be honest, like when I was much younger, there's so much that goes into management, leadership, building people up, finding the right talent. Managing budgets, managing relationships with investors, with board members, with all kinds of people. And I remember it must have been 10 or 12 years ago where I thought, I'm not sure I want to do that when I grow up, when I get older. And of course, a couple of years later, I'm like, I absolutely want to do that. So what I do as a CMO, I'd say every day, look, I wake up, I look at our metrics, I look at our top of the funnel dynamics, our middle of funnel, I look at which countries are lighting up, where traffic is coming from, how are our registrations, our trials, how's our new business metrics coming through. I'm also looking at our spending patterns, right? How much we're spending in certain markets, if that's going well, if we should be checking into spending more or less, depending on the demand environment. On a day-to-day basis, I typically have probably 2 or 3 one-on-ones with team members, and not just people who come and report with me directly, but people across the organization, my organization, but across the company. That's mixed in with external calls, lots of interviewing. Part of being in a growing company is you have to interview a lot. And of course, there's the ongoing budget management discussion. But I would say that more than half of my job, though, and the thing I love the most about being CMO, is to build up those around me. I take it very seriously, people's careers, people's time, how people develop, how to challenge people respectfully, so that they know that there's just a little bit more above what they can see that they're capable of. So this is some of the things that I do on a daily basis. Some.
Yeah, and it's funny because you said that one of the things that you thought 12 years ago, I don't know, you said that you didn't want to be a CMO.
Yeah.
And I see that today we have a lot of people thinking like this, like people that don't want to manage people.
Right.
Because like it's much easier to deal with
Sure.
budgets and tasks than people. Dealing with
Maybe.
people is yeah, like I think that there are people that have it as a normal and usual thing, but there are people that I see that don't, it's not their thing. So basically like it's
Yeah.
easier to deal with tasks, and like you working with a computer, it's easier than you working with people.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah, I think it's a fair point. I think people management is absolutely not for everyone. It's true.
yes,
I know.
yeah,
And again, there's also nothing wrong with that. We all have different skill sets. We all have different passions. For me, particularly though, I will say one of the things that gets me out of bed in the morning, one of the things that makes me wake up with energy, for my, especially direct reports, or for people that and I'd say similarly for people I don't talk to all the time, I can't wait to talk to my team. Even for example, we met last week at Web Summit Rio, which meant that week I didn't have my usual schedule with talking with direct reports, and it was almost maybe 10 or 14 days almost between the connection. And this morning, when I got back to a more regular rhythm, I got onto regular one-on-ones. I said, "Wow, I missed you. Tell me everything. What's going on?" So the people side it's very important, but it is a very different type of skill. And I will say, yes, it takes a lot of time. But it's very, very rewarding.
yeah, I agree with you. I am a people person. Like,
Sure.
I don't know if there is this definition, but if I would define myself, I would say that I'm much more a people person than a computers person.
Sure. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
fair enough. Yeah.
So okay, you gave a speech in Web Summit, and it
Mm-hmm.
was a very good speech, and you talked about organic marketing.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think about it, and how do you see like users' behavior between paid or organic traffic, and how do you see the future of those two strategies?
Well, I think the future right now, what we're in May 2023, right? So the future is still a little bit cloudy, right? It's still a little bit hard to see. In most countries, we still have kind of prevailing macroeconomic conditions that are preventing us from seeing very clearly. But I think going back to the Web Summit talk, and thank you, I had a great time. It was amazing to be back in Rio. I would say that that the talk was a lot of the questions that we went through were, how can we balance organic with paid advertising? And I think that, right now that's necessary for most companies, most companies that at least have the budgets for paid. In some verticals, demand is decreasing, so it wouldn't make sense to pay for advertising if you're not going to get it back, or to buy that traffic effectively. I think that look, I'm a big fan. Obviously, being part of Semrush, I'm a huge fan also of organic. Absolutely, I must have 9 different tattoos. I'm just kidding. But it is true that the importance and the long tail, the long-term motion for organic, in my view, is just absolutely the biggest payoff. I'll give you an idea that even at Semrush, it was last May in 2022 that we started to see some of our organic channels starting to stall a little bit. And I was kind of wondering what's going on there. And met with our head of our director of organic search and said, look, what do we need to turn things around? And the answer is we need investment. We need money, resource to be able to do this. So we made that decision. And you know what? Just 6 to 8 months later, which in my view is still relatively short term, we see in Q1, just this last quarter before us, that we're well ahead of plan. Right. And this is an excellent position to be in right now, because we need to slow on our paid side. So it has really helped us. Capture more organic traffic at a time right now where, frankly, I'm also interested in longer tail customers. When you talk about the idea of the difference between traffic, or the dynamics between traffic, I think that, any marketer would always want to attract people organically. Now, you can always supplement with paid, but it's generally speaking people who are interested in the things that you're selling, the things that you want to position in the market, the things that you might be an expert on, right? And that's also in some ways harder to take those positions, as we know as digital marketers. So I think if you're asking me, how do we see users' behavior? I think that, it's a safe bet to say that typically behavior from organic traffic is a lot more rich, both in interest and stickiness, right? People who are interested in your content, maybe even what you're selling, hopefully. I think paid is can be, depending on your product or your service, can be much more exploratory, right? You could be reaching into new audiences. And we did this as a company last year. We invested significantly in new styles of paid campaigns, also organic. And that was really in an effort to reach new audiences. Whether or not they would stick with us was a different question, because they just came to Semrush. They just heard about us for the first time. The behavior dynamics of those users is a different profile for sure. And I still recommend, especially now, especially as we position for economic recovery, whether that's in the autumn of this year, in September, October of this year, or later. My advice, as I talk with customers every day, is to position yourself now, or make the investments now for how you would like to be positioned for economic recovery.
Yes, and it's crazy to think about it, because here in Brazil, the behavior is totally different. Marketers in general here spend this amount in paid and this amount in organic.
Sure.
And and the thing you said, for me, it makes a lot of sense. Like, organic is to build a community and to build connections with people that already can think about your product, but maybe they don't know you, and they have a problem and you can solve and be part of the process of defining the solution for this problem. And with paid, usually I use it as well. I try to find new people to get to know me, but in my strategies, of course, I am from SEO. I wouldn't say anything different here, but in my strategies, I always see that SEO is a long-term strategy.
Yep.
And paid is something that we should do to explore. And it's not a behavior here in Brazil. We are talking about users' behavior and marketers' behavior. The marketers' behavior here is totally different than what you were telling that you think. And I see that we have a move here in Brazil to try to educate people with organic, because I see people here in Brazil, they never expect to get good results from organic. And I'm not sure if it's because people think it's difficult, or it's much more.
I think that's fairly common, though, Julie. I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think that's a fairly common view. That, number one, I would absolutely agree about the educational opportunity presented by organic programs. I can tell you, I'm a big fan. We're investing in it significantly at Semrush. The idea of educating people who are searching for the stuff of what you do as a business is a prime opportunity to educate, to grab that audience and educate them. You could argue also that paid is, if you do it correctly, you could argue that paid could be the one that kind of closes the deal, right? That puts things right in front of consumers, of users. But I agree with the idea that it is harder. Of course it is. It's longer. It takes longer. But it's also the most economical. It delivers the most ROI. Not everybody, especially in these economies, not everybody has money laying around to spend on display or video, right? Or even search. It costs money.
Yeah, but the return is much faster. So it's okay for me if I spend 100 and I get 200.
Sure.
Now, because I need now 100 of I will spend 100, I will get 200, so I will receive 100, I don't know, how can I say?
No, I got you.
Profit, the profit.
Yeah, the return.
The return. Yeah, exactly. So here people think this way, but I'm okay, your company will be on the market for 1 month or like for
Yeah.
a decade. Like you can't think for like receiving the money of what you are doing now. You can think in like some time, and
Yep.
it's very common here in Brazil. Yeah, and one of the biggest challenges I see people in marketing having is to allocate budgets, and it's part of what we
Yeah.
were talking about
Yeah. Yeah.
before. And we have like paid and organic and social and like a lot of strategies. And how do you split, as you as a CMO, you are the responsible for this dilemma.
Yeah.
And I imagine like that it's difficult to define it. I can imagine.
It
Like
can
I'm
be.
not a CMO, but
Yeah.
I think that this could be a problem. And how do you do it? And how do you measure it?
Yep. So first of all, you start with the measurement, right? Number one, we need to understand our attribution. There's plenty of different frameworks that you can use either off the shelf, or you can make your own marketing attribution. The biggest and most important thing when you're deciding budgets is you need to invest in where you are getting the best value for your spend. And that's a mix, but again, mix between organic and paid. It's a mix between brand as well. And that's not always easy. I think especially when you have a difficult operating environment like now, macro, it can be tricky. Maybe you're a little bit behind plan, so you want to pay a little bit more to pay your way out of that problem. But I'm not sure right now, Julia, that it would work. Right? In a normal economic conditions, you put $1 in, you get 2 out. Maybe it's not the case right now. So I would say that number one, you've got to be able to measure. In order to answer the question of how to allocate, you have to have measurements in place already. You need to understand how your channels are behaving already. So if you don't have that, you need to start right away with attribution. The next is after a certain period of time, ideally it's a year. Ideally, you can understand dynamics of how your channels are functioning and operating. And then you can start to model, well, if we put in X amount of money into these paid channels, maybe it's paid search brand, maybe it's a paid search non-brand, maybe it's paid video, paid display, whatever it is, paid social. You can model and anticipate according to a respective coefficient of what you're seeing already, what you might get back. And you can do the same thing with organic traffic, right? You can do the same thing with other channels that you have in your mix. So allocating budget eventually is not actually that difficult. Eventually, because when you have the measurement in place, you have the inputs and outputs in place. At the end of the day, it is it can be predictable. It can be.
Okay.
Does it help? Do you think it's simple? Is it complicated? I don't know.
Yes.
You tell me.
As you say, I am like, okay, it's simple. I'll do it right now.
Yeah, it's easy. Done.
Yeah. Okay. Next question.
I'm trying to give like the straight answer that of course there's a million different discussions of, are you sure about this? What if we do this program? We haven't done a brand campaign in a couple of years. We need to elevate brand equity. Of course, these questions come up. I'm just saying at the highest of levels, right? For someone who hasn't done it before, or someone who's curious about the process, for me, it's really about measurement, evaluation, understanding coefficients and modeling, and then investing. So okay. Yeah, simple, sure.
Okay, it's like an equation.
Yeah.
Okay, fine.
Yeah.
And I know that you have people of all around the world working with you. Mm-hmm. And like, I know that Eric is one of the examples. He works for Semrush here in Brazil. And I believe that you have like people in every country you work.
All over. Yep.
Yes. And I presume that it's very difficult to handle these schedules. And like, I imagine that doing a meeting with all the marketers you have here, there in Semrush, mm-hmm. It's kind of crazy because of the, for example, the time zones that you have. But also what I see from Semrush, and I'm a huge fan of the branding you have. Like, we were at that dinner after Web Summit, and the napkins were orange. And I'm like, you think about everything in branding, and I think
Sure.
I really trust that this is something that impacts people.
Sure.
If
Of
it
course.
wouldn't impacting, I would not be talking about it right now.
Very kind.
And how do you deal with like all those global marketing strategies talking the same language?
Yeah.
Like if I read the blog in the US and the
Yep.
blog in Brazil,
Yep.
I see the same language, the same tone, the
Mhm.
same voice, and it's very incredible to do it, because like I'm pretty sure that are not the same people
The
or
same
group
writers.
of
No.
people writing it.
No.
Yes.
No, they're not.
and
No.
and also how do you how you work with a lot of those people with different cultures and time zones and locations and all of those things? So like there are two different questions but in the same scene.
Yeah. So it's a great question. How do you in a multinational, multicultural, multiple continents, how do you manage, right? It's a question that could be answered differently both pre and post COVID, but for me it's always the same. At the end of the day, look, culture and I don't know, perhaps Julia, my take is a little bit different. I've lived and worked in, I don't know, I think it's 40, 45, maybe more countries now. Like I've been around, I've been very, very lucky. I've worked very hard, but I have been very lucky and fortunate to travel and spend many times in many, many different countries. And the thing that I know the most, especially when it comes to marketers, is that marketers want the freedom to explore, the freedom to ask questions, the freedom to be open and honest and direct with feedback. And they want to learn and they want to grow. And so, there's two parts to your question. Number one is, how do you manage the team? And number two, how do you get the kind of brand consistency that you mean, right? So
Yes.
let me tackle it, the first and the second. So the first is, in all of my travels and in my living, and I'm not that old. I have some grays in my beard, but I'm not that old.
Yeah,
In my travels,
you're kind of letting us know your age by your comments.
So I love your question for many reasons. And I think about it in two different parts. One is how to manage a global team, and the other is how do you get the kind of brand consistency that you were talking about. And the first is, in all of my travels, I know that especially in marketing, people want autonomy. They want to be able to learn, to live, to grow, to expand, to test new ideas, to win, to fail, right? All of it is important for everyone. And from my side, this is about giving leaders full autonomy to lead within their departments, but also within region, right? Everyone at Semrush, especially in marketing, is fully dialed in and connected to our global strategy, right? Ultimately, we want to make online and digital marketing easier for everybody, right? For solopreneurs, for small businesses, for mid-sized businesses, for agencies, for professionals, marketers, and also for people who don't even know that they want to be marketers yet. That's our goal, right? That's our goal. And when you are aligned like with this North Star or East Star, whatever direction, West Star, whatever star you want, when you have this point, this is what helps with everything. On the second side, about how do we get such brand consistency?
And just to interrupt you,
Yeah.
I don't know what you are about to answer, but it's crazy to think how you do a brand consistency, giving people the ability to do whatever they want, like to test whatever they want.
Yeah, I know. But that's where people love the brand so much that they want it to look amazing.
Yes.
And that's what I think is really critical. So, it's great that you noticed that detail of the napkin or this or that. But it's all connected, Eric, especially in Brazil, it's almost personal for him, Semrush is so important with and our customers throughout. So it's just tremendous to see that consistency globally. Yeah.
Yes, and I really think that this is one of the most incredible things you can do. Like I know that you have a lot of things on your plate with the educational part and all of those things that you do. Like I was talking to Eric that one of those things that I see that you educated the market is about the search intent. Like
Yeah.
it was something that it always existed, but we started talking much more about it in the moment you added the search intent with the keywords in the keyword magic tool. So like you are very concerned with educating people, but also like you do it on a very specific way. Yes, and I see that like it's very impressive what you do. Like it's not about the napkin, or it's not about the images or the color or something like that. It's the way that people communicate. So like I see, and it's very funny because I met you and I was with Eric in the same day, and I talked to both of you about culture in
Yes.
that day, and you two gave me the exactly same answer, and I was like,
Really?
yes, like you two think about culture in Semrush the same way. And
Yeah.
like I'm pretty sure you didn't go through
No.
Eric and said, hey, if she asks about culture,
It's
please
really
answer this.
it's really interesting because you didn't tell me that. Yeah, that's really cool. I love that. I love that.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's like strong company culture. You know, it's like when people when it really matters. You know, and I think that is something. If I can be honest, I think that's something that's very unique about Semrush. You know, that
Yes.
we do have those values. We live them every day, and at the end of the day, you know, like I said before, we're clear on our mission, but like also we're marketers. We just want to make stuff. We want to make things. We want to find success. We want to learn how to get there by failing. It's a huge process, right? But it takes guts, you know.
Yes, and like getting back to the question we did before, it's crazy because you can't measure the impact of it, but like you can't measure in ROI, but you can measure when you talk to people and see the power of the brand. Like
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So this is another kind of things that I see that you believe as marketers in Semrush, and
Yep.
I see that people in marketing usually don't see the value because they don't know how to measure it. But it's
Fair.
very important to have on a company.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, it's a pleasure talking to you, but unfortunately we will have to log off in a few minutes.
Okay.
So let's do the last question. And
Right.
since you are the CMO of Semrush, I'd like some spoilers. So
Oh.
what? So what do you see in the future, or even better, what can we expect in the future, like in the
Wow.
next months? I don't know,
Wow.
like any news, updates,
Spoilers.
discounts,
I
coupons.
no.
I'm kidding.
Come on. You don't need discounts and coupons for value, baby. You know, for value, right? For helping us market better. Look, spoilers. That's a tough one, right? We're public companies, so I have to be careful about what we can say. I would say that there's a lot going on with our App Center. We have more than 50 apps there now. This is a move to expand our offers to marketers all over the world. Sometimes marketers of very small businesses and even large businesses have one or two things that they have to do really well. They don't necessarily need tons of tools. App Center is going to be a really great play for people in our community and people who are new to our community. I encourage everyone to check that out. There are many spoilers to come, I think, for the App Center or platform, what we call. So this is what's coming up, and there are some. I can tease that there are some other major news coming from Semrush probably later in the year. But that's all I'm going to say for now.
Okay, this is what I got. So okay,
Good.
I have to sleep with that. Like I won't get anything.
Hey, that's
more.
something. Come on, there's some
Yes,
spoilers there.
yes.
Come on.
Like yeah.
Good.
Okay, I have to take this as an answer.
Perfect. Good.
Andrew, I'm very thankful for this opportunity to talk to you. It was incredible getting to know you better in Web Summit, and like I saw that you were very accessible when I invited you to come here, and you said,
Sure.
Okay, let's do it.
Yeah, let's do it.
So it's very good to have you talking here for other SEO enthusiasts. And of course, thanks for everybody that watched us. And we see you in the next episode. Bye bye, guys.